Hello, in this episode I wanted to go over the Scheps Omni Channel. And I'll just start with these modules from left to right. Now, Scheps Omni Channel is a channel strip, and I really like all the features in it, and it really has a lot more features than I think any other channel strip on the market. Now, the first module we have right here, and we can reorder these, rearrange them. The first module we have is the Preamp, and it has a couple of sections in it. So, we have the saturation. Let's try that out first. I'm going to add some saturation right here, like a decent amount so you can hear the nature of it, okay? And we'll stick to the odd first. So that's odd for you. Let's try even. So you can hear the difference. The odd sounds warmer, even sounds more edgy. And then we have the heavy. Yeah, I think it has the edginess to it as well, and have the crush. Can go really hard. Crush really crushes it, but all of this with a nice taste. At least I like them. Now, if you want to see any deeper controls to either one of these modules, just click this button right here. And there you can also enable, disable them. You can change the module's mode of processing to duo. So it's not going to be stereo. Okay, it's not going to process both channels at the same time. So it's going to be duo. They're not going to be linked anymore. And this is going to be the left. It's going to be the right. And you can also go to MS mode, where this is the mid and the side. And you can still link the controls if you want it for both of them, but you can process them in different configurations. So you can stay stereo, and as I said, saturation, we have 4 different types of saturation. We have some filters right after that saturation. We have that high pass or low cut, as you would call it. And we have the low pass or high cut. Right there, we can choose the slope for each one of those. We can add resonance for each one of those. So let's hear that. You can turn off the saturation so you can hear all the filters. Nice. And we have the thump right here. This is like an EQ boosting all the low frequencies, starting from somewhere around 500 hertz and slowly sloping off somewhere around 1000. So the low frequencies get a thump of 2 or 4 decibel. And let's hear that as well. Turn off these filters. 2 and 4, just adding a boost in the low frequencies right there. Now, one thing I did not like here was that, let's say I wanted to hear the saturation, add some saturation right there. And let's say I wanted to compensate the volume, of the output, so that when I bypass it, I still have the same volume level, but just have the saturation added. But I just couldn't do that. Or maybe I'm doing something wrong. Feel free to, let me know in the comments. But the saturation, as I said, sounds really nice. I just couldn't find a way to properly gain compensate it. So that's the first module. Then we have the gate. Now, you would use a gate when recording if you wanted to gate out specific, background noise, or if you had something else, let's say a drum mic where you wanted to gate out all the other drums being heard there in the background, or maybe some, noise or background things that you can hear in a vocal recording. So anything low volume. So we have the gate standard. We can choose the threshold. So anything below this threshold is going to get completely removed. And this is the floor, saying minus 60 dB. So meaning that anything that's quieter than this threshold is going to be minus 60 dBs attenuated. So attenuated even more. Now, this close functionality right here is a secondary threshold. Okay, so it determines when the gate closes, and for it to work properly, you would have to set it lower than the actual threshold. and that is when the gate will close. Now, aside of that, we have the attack and release times, so we can decide when it's, how fast it's going to close a gate and how fast it's going to open the gate again. So let's try that again. See, so everything below the threshold is getting pushed down. We can make it faster. And of course, we can open that section and see it much bigger. So you can see that we have a sidechain filter right there. We can select to listen to only a certain portion of the signal when doing the gating, like this. Or let's just say, listen only to the low frequencies. So the gate is actually listening to this. The detection circuit listens to this filtered out signal. And we can turn that gate into an expander as well. So when you turn it into an expander, the ratio just gets smaller probably. With a gate, it's really an extreme, almost infinite to none ratio, so making the sound completely quiet. So there we go. We can also set this to be duo or mid-side. Okay, so we can process separately the left or the right or mid and side. Of course, with and without the sidechain filters, it's really easy to bypass them right there, and we can get out of the gate. Next module is the de-esser, and we have 2 de-essers at our disposal. So let me enlarge that section. We have 2 de-essers, so 2 of them per channel. Now they're in stereo mode. Let's try to de-ess something in this song. I'm gonna start listening to what's being de-essed. I'm gonna select a really narrow band like this. Okay, let's try it with this part of the snare. See, that's what we're taking out. So let's not listen to the sidechain anymore. Let's do this more aggressively so we can bypass it and hear the difference. See, I'm killing that resonant part of the snare. Now, is it something I want or not? That depends on, do you need it? I'm trying to show you what can be done. So we can dynamically attenuate a certain part of the frequency band. We have the low shelf, we have the notch, we have the bell, and we have the high shelf. So we can choose either one of these filter types, and then we can dynamically attenuate them. So we have 2 of those per channel strip. I could select another frequency band right there, and then choose to attenuate that one as well. Let's try something else. Like that. So let's bypass all of that. This is always affecting it, but it is quite aggressive. Nothing. Now being active. That's great. Next up is the EQ. Now you can see the old EQ right here, but we can also get into that detailed view and all of the controls are bigger. Although you did see all of that right here. So there are no specific controls that just show up that you could not see before, but we can enlarge it. Now, again, we have the stereo, duo, and mid-side modes for this EQ. We're gonna keep it in stereo and just show you what we have. So we have separate kind of shelves, so different resonant shelf, a normal shelf, and a parametric. Parametric actually is a bell, and it allows us to choose a different Q, like width of that band, and then the frequency, of course, and the gain. And we can listen to only that band, just to find it more easily. Now, this is quite narrow, and everything is gonna sound annoying, but let's say I wanted to, lower down on this part. So I'm gonna go out of the monitoring phase. Let's bypass it. Make this narrower. Okay, so that part seems quite annoying. I'm just gonna lower that by, let's say, some 4 dBs. I like that. I also have the low shelf right here. That was the high shelf. So I'm gonna use that to boost the bass a tiny bit. Let's boost everything below 130 Hertz like this. Maybe a bit less. Let's say just a dB point something. Sounds quite nice. And we have 2 parametrics. So completely parametric like this. And we have like narrows and wide. So narrow bell, wide bell, and the parametric bell where we can actually choose the width of that band. We can choose those as well. Now you can't really hear the difference in between the wide and the narrow band because you're only auditing that, frequency where you have set it. But if you go out of the audition mode, you can see that we are boosting narrow or wide. Just like this. So we are boosting wide, boosting narrowly, and in the end, fully parametric like this. Second one is exactly the same. Now I can disable that EQ. Let's get out and into the final, the compressor, and let's enlarge that as well. Now for that compressor, we have 4 different types of compressors. And again, like any other compressor, we have the threshold, the ratio. So the threshold that decides that everything that surpasses it gets attenuated in this ratio, and the attack is gonna decide on how fast it gets attenuated once it surpasses the threshold, and the release is going to decide how fast it stops being attenuated after it goes under the threshold again. So after it becomes quieter and needs no compression anymore. Let's hear what this VCA sounds like first. Of course, let me get out. Beautiful. Pull up the gain. So let's try with a high ratio. This should be the most transparent compressor. It's VCA type. I'm gonna try a little bit higher attack, a little bit lower on the release. And we have the output gain to compensate for it. I'm gonna bring this back to 0. So let's try it. This is without compression. I'm just gonna lower the ratio like this. And I can even use this dry wet knob to mix in some of the original so we can actually have parallel compression. We also have FET kind of compression. This one is faster, but it's slower to react. So this would be good on, let's say, drums, bringing out the snap in the drums, on the vocals as well. We have the optical that's really slow. Let's try that one as well. Should be really smooth in reaction. See, it's really smooth in how it rides, and this soft one is the smoothest one. So the slowest one in reaction to the signal. Now we also have the filter, which filters out the sidechain. So this is, of course, again, filtering out the signal that the compressor is listening to, that the threshold is receiving in order to decide whether compression is needed or not. So we can filter out that signal and essentially make the compressor react differently. Let's say we could add more high frequencies or kill high frequencies. We could, filter out the low frequencies so that the compressor only reacts to the high frequencies and such things. Whatever we need to, let's say in this case, not have the compressor react so much to the low frequencies. Again, we can have this compressor work in duo, so compressing separately the left and the right, or in MS modes, compressing separately the mid or the side. Disable that, get out of this module, and you can add right here as a separate module any kind of effect from waves or a third-party VST into this mix. Now at the end, we can of course listen to whatever we are processing, like this. In mono, we can listen to only the left, only the right, only the mid, or only the sides. So this is a really handy thing to have in this channel strip, so we can listen to all the different aspects of the signal. We can flip the phase of the channels. Now, these are linked, but we could flip the phase of, separate channels like this. And when they're linked, they both react together. In addition to that as well, we can see the input signal, the output signal volume, or the gain reduction being introduced by the complete effect like this. So everything, let's say the de-esser or the gate as well, and the compressor. So all of that being measured, and it shows us the exact gain reduction we are getting by the entire plugin, by all the processes together. So it's just comparing the in and out. Now we also have a limiter that we can engage, and we have a threshold for it so that we can limit the signal as well. And that limiter also sounds really nice in my opinion. So having this plugin on every single channel is really a great tool. And you have more than enough tools here to mix a track by just using this single plugin on each single track. I'll be happy if they ask me to have only one plugin. I'd be happy to have only this one. It goes without mention, this blue focus button. So if you select some preset that has those focus things determined, you can see the focus is on this and this parameter, and it basically tells you that when you load a preset, which parameters you want to be adjusting. Okay, so any preset I change to, it shows me immediately where my eyes should go and what are the parameters I should be moving to adjust this preset to whatever signal I'm processing.
So far, I have recorded over 80 hours of lessons to help you become a professional producer. And now, thanks to Levin.org, I can offer them to everyone completely free. Check out the free music production certificate at mixingacademy.com.